Hello and welcome to the latest segment in Inlet Asia's Plus series. Today I'm delighted to be joined by George Hunt, the Chief Strategy Officer, CSO for Smart Energy Water, aka SEW. George will be presenting at our Plus series titled Demand Side and Customer Management on April 22nd. There are still spots available to make sure to register. Now to George. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. It's nice to join you.
Yeah, nice to see you. So the obvious place to start, I think, is to ask you to tell us a little bit about SEW for those in our network who aren't aware of what you do, and a little bit about your role in the business, as well as about your vision and the importance it holds in today's world.
Thank you, Melissa. And again, it's great to be here. So I think one of the biggest challenges that utility companies are facing worldwide is to provide a great customer experience for their consumers, and also a great employee experience for their workforce. This is especially so, of course, with the year that we've just had with the pandemic, but it's also what utility customers are expecting now. Added to that, I think utility companies have got a vast array of data from their customer systems, their billing systems, asset management, operational technology systems, and they're getting an increasingly connected array of devices into their networks as well, in the form of IoT sensors, smart meters, and smart assets that are operating their energy and their water grids if it's a water utility. In addition to the experiences we need to provide, we also need to find an effective way of mining that data so that we can have impact and actually impact that makes a difference to customers, particularly things that relate to getting ahead of an incident or something relating that could avoid a bill shock for a customer, for example, or a high consumption type of event. All of this is amplified just now with the need to protect the environment as well, and manage carbon and deliver on sustainability targets that are being set for the next 5 or 10 years. So all of this is kind of in the mix here. And SEW as a company, Smart Energy Water, its primary mission is to engage, educate, and empower billions of people to save energy and water through their platforms. This idea is to not only provide a great experience and connect employees so that they can be effective, but also these platforms provide advanced analytics and machine learning so that we can deliver that experience and we can deliver that insights. We've currently got, as a company, over 600 million consumers on the platform and meters connected in over 22 countries and 320 utility companies. We're growing very fast because the challenges that we're trying to address are the challenges that are at the top of the agenda for most of the boards of utility companies around the world, and most of the actions that customers are expecting of them now, particularly around service resilience. So SEW is quite nicely placed in the form of it's growing, it's got a very effective platform, and it's addressing something that is really key just now. My own role in SEW is Chief Strategy Officer. Plus, I'm also General Manager for Europe and Australia, New Zealand as business units. And we're growing fast in those regions too. And I'm also very focused personally on how we ensure that SEW has a real purpose to address the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals as well. We're very, very focused on playing our part and incorporating that into our strategy and our mission, as well as growing the business to serve our customers. So it's an exciting time to be part of SEW. It's really growing very fast, and we're doing some really good things.
Nice. Yeah, definitely sounds that way. Beautiful. So the digital revolution we have experienced over the last decade has significantly shifted the level of engagement customers have with organizations and brands. So how has this been reflected in the utility sector, do you think?
Well, it's certainly raised the bar. There's no doubt whatsoever that's happened. And in general, I think utilities have been pretty slow to react. Some of this is due to regulation and regulatory cycles, and some due to the fact that many utilities, particularly in water, are still monopoly businesses. But on the whole, consumers like us, we're expecting the same experience that we get with our retailers and our banks to now be provided by our utilities. We've heard it all before, of course. The specifics for utilities are slightly different though. we don't only expect to have our bill presented digitally or payment channels to be available. We expect to now see things relating to incident management, service resilience, tariff insights. We expect to see proactive insights around service issues or billing and payments. We expect to see information about when an engineer might arrive or when a component like a smart meter might be installed for us. And all in all, utility customers are now expecting a full set of processes to be covered, not just the specific ones that they've been used to. Looking ahead, though, we're going to expect more from our utilities, there's no doubt. We're going to expect to see insights about how we can save energy and save water. We expect to see insights about how we compare in our consumption to our peer groups, whether it's the same household size or whether we're an industrial and commercial customer where we're looking to save energy. We're looking to do our part to address climate change. And I think utility customers are getting more invested in actually playing a role in helping to address climate change. I think, but we need to have insights that help us do that. And I think that's something that we're really expecting from utility companies now. We're expecting to be provided with insights that say, did you know if you do this, you can save that? And all of these things will add up, of course, to addressing net zero targets or sustainability challenges that we have going forward. So there's no doubt that the digital revolution has been significant across other organizations and brands, but the utility sector is now playing rapid catch up. But having said that, every leader that I come into contact to from the utility sector is on it. They're keen, they're making a difference, and the boards and the regulators are behind them. So it's good news.
It definitely is. I think it's an exciting time for utilities. So the transformation is definitely well on its way, I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
So speaking of which, the utility sector is being traditional or has been traditional, and I guess a bit slow kind of in adopting new technologies and practices as we were speaking of. So do you think this has resulted in them lagging and engaging with their customers beyond the necessary monthly billing interactions, for example, compared to other industries? And if so, how has this impacted customer experience?
Yeah, it's really good to build upon on that question, because so building upon how the previous question a little bit, as I said, there's no doubt they're lagging and they're rapidly playing catch up. The good news, though, is that technologies and solutions like the role that SEW are playing are mature and proven. The utility companies are not in a bold new world where some of these technologies are bleeding edge. These things are proven and they're available. So, it's really just a case of utility companies integrating and connecting the key platforms that provide an experience for customers into their core business systems, like their asset management, billing, and operational technology systems. So it's a great time. It's a great time to be playing catch up because the technologies and solutions are mature, but we're about to change the paradigm with about which customers engage with their utilities, and we're going to change the paradigm of what it's like to engage with the utility. It's not just about billing. It's not just about querying a service. This is all about being engaged and understanding much more. So I think, if I think about myself, I've tended not to think too much about how I engage with my energy companies or my water companies, but I am getting much more interested now. I'm more connected. I'm more interested in whether those companies are being ethical, and I expect those companies to now engage with me and tell me, what are they doing to address climate change? What are they doing to source renewable energy? Are they being ethical in the way that they operate their supply chains and their value chains across the organization? That's what I now expect of them, and I expect them to engage me. And that's the paradigm shift, I think. We all know about transaction processing and paying a bill, presenting a bill, querying something, but actually we're moving to another level now. We're moving to a level where it's maybe less about the customer and more about the citizen. And what I mean by that is, if we think of the consumer as the person that flicks the switch, turns the tap, the consumer who pays we could define those as the customer, perhaps because we bring in the affordability factor. But actually, I really like the idea of the citizen, which is the citizen that lives, the citizen that's in a community, that lives in the environment, has a family, thinks about the future generations, etc. And I think that's where it gets really exciting.
Yep, absolutely. And as you said, I think just the customers are definitely getting more savvy, so it's important to definitely step up the game for sure when it comes to interacting with them. Which definitely leads us to our next question, actually. Can you outline 3 reasons why utilities need to pay more attention to ensure they deliver superior customer experiences?
Yeah, definitely. The first one's easy: put customer or the citizen at the heart of all your decision making.
Mhm.
The heart of your experience design, the heart of your processes, etc. Sounds really obvious, but a lot of the organizations have grown up as asset management or asset centric organizations, engineering led, and for very good reason. We've got very good networks and infrastructure, but actually it's time to put the customer or the citizen at the heart. So number one is do that, think about the customer and citizen first. The second one for me is and there's some of this is personal experience and scars from previous roles, but focus on the wider economic benefits. Don't just focus on short-term ROI. Think about the decisions you're making about in a wider economic sense. I really like the view of an economist. The economist will take a broader range of factors, more so than taking a pure return on investment type approach. So the second point is focus on wider economic benefits or wider impact of the decisions you're making. And third one is find partners that have done this before and collaborate. Many utility companies have generally been quite insular, I think, solving all their problems on their own.
Mhm.
Actually, it's time to build a much broader ecosystem of partners and address this challenge together. I think that is also a really exciting part of this, which is, we're finding new people entering the value chains here. We're finding new entrants in the market, and we're doing things differently because there are new players and there are disruptors in the market. And that's it's sometimes you think, is it good to be disrupted? But actually, from a consumer or citizen point of view, I think disruption is good. It's just like competition, it's going to drive innovation as well. So all good. So those are the 3 things I think I would recommend.
Absolutely. Definitely. So leading into our next question then, if you were to redefine customer experiences for utilities, what would this look like? And what role does technology play in improving this, specifically regarding their relationship with power utilities?
Yeah, it's again a really great question, Melissa. I think I need to differentiate a little bit here between domestic customers or household customers like you and I, and large industrial and commercial customers. For domestic customers, we talked a little bit about it already, but I think we're looking for a much more holistic view, one that has gone beyond bill presentation. We're looking for a view that tells us how we can potentially save energy and water, and also we're looking for how we might bring in other factors, like we might have a solar panels on our house, or we might have an electric vehicle, or we might have other renewable energy sources around where we live as a domestic user. And I think we're looking for something that says, put the citizen at the heart and tell me how I interact with all of these things around me, including my energy sources, including the way in which I may, if I have enough energy, I might put energy back into the grid. I might have an electric vehicle, and I might choose to say, when the grid is in high demand, I might put energy back into the grid, and then I might recharge my car when the grid is in less demand. All of these things are actually fairly straightforward to do, but they're sort of micro adjustments throughout the whole day, and that takes quite a lot of orchestration and technology to do that. But it's what I'm now expecting my utility companies to do for me, particularly my energy utility companies or my energy companies, and I'm expecting them to inform me about when it's good for me to plug my car in and discharge that energy back to the grid. I'm expecting them to tell me when it might be good to put a dishwasher on, or tumble dryer, or charge my car back up, and I'm just looking to be much more engaged in that regard. So that's me thinking as a domestic user. If I think about large commercial and industrial customers, I think the obligation is even greater. These companies have set very challenging net zero targets, or sustainability challenges over the next sort of 5 or 10 years. And I think the utilities companies are a little bit slow to inform the large consumers, people like, people that consume a lot of energy and water, whether it's a steel works, whether it's a drinks company, whether it's a logistics company, it doesn't matter really what it is. But I'm expecting the utility companies to provide much more information to these large industrial and commercial customers about how they could save energy and water. And I think they've generally been slow doing that. The final thing I'd probably say is I think we're seeing a changing landscape in terms of competition and regulation. They both have a role to play here. Competition will drive innovation, there's no doubt. It will drive choice, it will drive value for consumers. But I think regulation has a role to play as well. And I think regulation has tended to potentially lag and starve innovation. But I think progressive regulators around the world are now moving sort of forward, and they're actually driving real change through regulation. And I think that's a really good thing too.
Absolutely. Very good points. So with that in mind, how does redefining the customer experience for utilities merge with the smart home concept? And how can utilities create a more holistic solution?
Yeah, so the smart home concept, I really like where this is going. I'm a little frightened of being ultra connected, and I've got family that have got Alexa and Siri and all the things that we've seen, and I'm a little frightened about how connected we are into that world. Actually, I think smartness in the home is very linked to smartness in my district or my village or my town or my city. I prior to joining SEW, I worked as CIO for Sydney Water. And Greater Sydney is a fantastic region where they're driving, they're turning it into a really smart region, building a very smart new airport, very smart new cities. And when you start to get under the surface of that, you start realizing what does it mean to be smart? And really what it means is to be hyper connected, to be fully integrated, to be fully informed and educated about the choices that I make. Whether is it the right time for me to catch a bus into the city? Is it the right time for me to charge my car? Is my building, is it the right time for me to switch the heating on in whatever building I'm in, or the lights on? And smartness is really all about making good choices through great insights. And then when you expand that to a city and you think, well, when's it a good time to change the traffic sequencing or something like that in conjunction with other factors? If there's a large incident, change the sequence of the traffic lights so that actually you divert cars away. Change the things that produce air, affect air quality. They're all really smart, clever things, and it's very hard in a few moments to try and sort of capture the essence of that, but it's very exciting, and the technologies are here, and so is the motivation, and I think that's great.
Yep, pretty soon it'll be like the Jetsons back in the day, that cartoon, if you've ever watched
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely.
We're almost there.
It's really frightening how many things that I saw growing up as a kid that are now reality. Reality.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
So bringing it back to Asia, actually, what about for consumers in less developed countries? As you'll find in some parts of Asian, how do you begin to improve their experiences when the idea of a smart home, which is perhaps alien to them?
Yeah, I love this question actually, Melissa. I've got some experience here working with WaterAid and working with the United Nations in developing countries, and there's a couple of things that really surprised me. The first thing that surprised me was actually how connected they are. That the actual land-based infrastructure that we've become used to, the power that is provided through the grid, the connectivity provided through lease lines into large cities and so on, and broadband. They've kind of skipped that phase, and they've gone straight to 4G and 5G. But they've all got a device. They've tended to have a device, and I remember having a conversation with an African utility about how they bill their customers, how they how they contact them, how they inform them about services and queries and accounts and so on and so forth, how they collect money even. And they said, we use WhatsApp. We use WhatsApp because everybody is connected. And they said this to me at a time that we were deploying a brand new billing system for, millions and millions of dollars, into a large, mature, regulated utility. And they were telling me, no, no, we're using WhatsApp. And I thought, what I really liked about that is that they're using the available technology they have in order to deliver what they need to do or provide the services they need to provide. And I love that kind of innovation. I love that kind of way in which people think. I use the tools that are available to me. So on the one level, I think in the developing countries that they're very innovative because they have a lack of infrastructure, lack of services. On that aside, though, on a much more fundamental level, I've also been in places where water is scarce, where energy is not available, where health is a problem, and this is why I'm very closely. My heart is very close to the United Nations Development Goals, and I'm really pleased to say that SEW's goal around connecting billions of people, the vast majority of that is to connect people through whatever infrastructure they have, so that they can help find water, they can find water that they can drink, they can find water that can be treated to the point where it can be drunk, they can treat waste in a way that it produces energy that can then reproduce a bit of water or power some lighting or power some other services like medical in areas where they're very remote. So we've all got a real obligation to play here in the mature sort of first world to say, what can we do to help people that are in the developing countries be healthy, find water, produce energy from waste. And again, even producing energy from waste, the real innovation about creating a circular economy so that we don't just take, make, use, and dispose, which is that linear economy that we've all sort of grown up with. The circular economy principles, they're growing, they're evolving very rapidly in developing countries where the resources are scarce, where they do have to use water more than once, where they do have to produce energy from waste, where they do have to power devices in a way that we take for granted. So we can learn an awful lot by what's going on in the developing world. Sorry, that was a long answer, but this is something that hits me right in the heart.
Absolutely. And they're important topics. So no, definitely. Thank you for sharing. So do you think then utilities are doing enough when it comes to addressing their net zero targets and helping their domestic consumers and large industrial or commercial consumers understand how they can save both energy and water? And are we all doing our bit to make a difference here, really?
I think, again, I think we're all on a bit of a journey, and I think, even large industrial and commercial companies are on a bit of a journey. What I am really thrilled about is, when you look at pick any of the most recognizable global brands, they will have clear targets around net zero, clear targets around sustainability now, and they'll be right at the top of their board agendas and their strategy. And that's really great. The challenge is how quickly will they evolve and change to meet those targets. And in general, I feel like you look across all of the sectors, and I think utilities have generally been slower to react than perhaps some of the major brands that are in front of us today. I think we've seen consumer brands react very quickly to this, and sustainability or the things that they're doing to be ethical in this regard have actually turned into competitive advantage. We're buying things that we know are sustainable, are sourced in a sustainable way. We're using bamboo to do things that we've never done with before. We're using all sorts of things. So it's actually driving growth through sustainability. And I think utilities are generally being slow, but they're playing catch up, and they're playing catch up fast. So I think, just to answer your question, we're all doing our bit, I think, to help. But we want to be informed on how we can help more. And I think that's the obligation that utilities have in order to address net zero targets, whether it's the ones that we have personally to make sure we're doing our bit, or whether it's helping really large industrial and commercial companies save more energy or save more water or resources. So yeah, it's an interesting time, I think, but everybody's trying to do their bit now.
Absolutely. Yep, we that takes us actually to our last question. So do you think utilities understand the importance of customer service and the impact it has on customer experience? Ultimately, it's the field technicians who deliver these services to the consumers. So what benefit does workforce management solutions offer to affect customer service and elevate the customer experience?
Yeah, love this. Yeah, I mentioned earlier that one of the things that we should do is put the customer and citizen at the heart. I should probably elaborate on that a little bit and say if we look after the frontline staff, if we look after the field technicians that are in front of the customers, if we look after our employees that are critical to delivering the services, then that in turn will help us look after the customers and the citizens to do the right thing. So I've been in a few situations in my life where it's all about the customer, and actually it's not about the person or the team that is serving the customer. And I think that's a little bit short-sighted. So I think the whole customer experience, or the whole experience that we need to provide, is not only related to what is it like for the customer, but we should also focus on what is it like for the people or teams that serve the customer. So I think bringing in the field technicians, bringing in the frontline staff that are serving customers, whether it be face to face or on the phone or through whatever other channels are available, it is really important. It's not just about the customer experience, about the workforce experience or the employee experience. And I think, we don't have to look very far in our utility companies to know that the average age of tenure is probably over 20 years of knowledge that people have, and there is an awful lot of knowledge that is looking to leave the business through retirement and other things, and that knowledge will just walk out the door. So we've got to find a way of using technology to capture knowledge at the point of delivery, and also we've got to provide the right kind of tools to attract young talent into these sectors. And if we want to attract young talent and we give them a tool which is out of the dark ages, and then it's very clumsy to use, then they'll go and find another job where it's much more exciting to use technology on the front edge. So a long bit of a long answer, but generally I think it is very important about how we deliver a great customer experience, but actually we need to think very carefully about a workforce experience too. We know an awful lot about connected assets, IoT devices, sensors, monitors, so connected assets, we're good with that. We're working very hard on connected customers through all the experience, all the channels, all the technologies that we have. We've got to think carefully about the middle part, which is connected workforce. And somehow we've got to bring all of that together into delivering the services that we want. So there's no doubt in my mind that if we put the right tools in the hands of our teams, then they will delight and serve our customers in a fantastic way.
Absolutely. Great answer. Perfect. And thank you for wrapping up our conversation so nicely, George. It was definitely a pleasure learning more about SEW through the lens of your experience. Thank you also for the Inlet community for watching. We hope you join us at the April 22nd for the Plus series titled Demand Side and Customer Management. Thank you all. Have a great day. And thank you, George.
Thank you. Take
Take
care.
care.